I'd like to call the meeting to order at 4:03 p.m.
Can everybody hear us? Linda, you can hear us. Everybody come back, and if you can hear us, Pat, Rihanna has given us a thumbs up. Everybody's good.
Saying yes.
I can
Okay.
hear you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so any public comments? No. Okay, approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve. We have the first one from April the 12th. That we need to, any corrections? None. Okay, well, hope your memory was good. Okay. Any, no, okay. Make a motion.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Then 12. Yeah. And that's approved. We'll have the special meeting was on April 26th. And I need approval for that. Okay. Yes? All right, second. So we're ready for Patty already.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today, we have May warrants. Thank you, Chief. That total $32,825.36. The total for payroll is $17,656.46. And that includes Chief Carlton's salary of $5,707.92 and Chief Shield's pay of $3,433.34. And there were two events for the commissioners and the board secretary. And I believe you have all been handed out the April financial statements for your review. So today I'm requesting approval of the warrants and payroll for May as presented, and I'm open for any questions.
Maybe have approval. You have the right sheet. Yeah, there, yeah. Yes.
Go ahead and speak up, Commissioner, for me, please.
Yes, I approve.
So we have approved the warrants for $32,825.36 and payroll for $17,656.46. Okay, moving right along. Do you have anything else, Patty?
Yes, budget update as of April 30th, 2023. We currently have 73.43% left of this year's budget, and that is compared to 71.37% the year prior.
Okay. Any questions? No.
Any questions on the warrants over 1,000?
Well, everything seems straightforward, so I didn't.
Yeah, Pacific Power Group was for the generator that sits behind the station. That was its annual maintenance. And we had a leaking issue with it this year. So that had to be corrected as well. Obviously the fuel. And then when you go on down, Carl's mower and saw, we purchased an electric chainsaw. So that has been placed on engine 58 and it'll be utilized on the ATV as well, if necessary, for backwoods issues and wildfires. EMT and fire training, I think I mentioned it last month. Rebecca Goodwin, one of our community members, is starting EMT training. So she's part of CERT and prep, and she has just started that. So hopefully in the next 4 to 6 months, she'll be completed and online serving the community. She'll be under contract with the district for a year to serve in that capacity to pay back the taxpayers. And obviously, if she doesn't, then it's a pro rata payment back to the district, so the taxpayers are reimbursed.
Other questions? Moving right along, correspondence, chief?
No correspondence there. Yes, there was correspondence. We have a potential house on Largo that a family would like us to burn for them. And we're starting to look at that structure. They'll have to mitigate it from asbestos if there's any in there. And we may not be able to burn it for live burn training, just for the fact it's pretty close to a house to the south of it. And depending on the wind direction, those types of things, that can become pretty dangerous for that structure. But if they allow us, then we would be training on it, doing search and rescue. It's a very small house, but it still gives us practicality in improving our skill sets for this community. So
Make that decision.
me talking to the family, to the owners of that, regardless of whether it's burnt or whether it's demolished, they have to abate that structure of asbestos. And that's something that costs a lot of money. So depending on how much and where it's at, those types of things. So.
And you want to go ahead with your chief's report?
Sure. So Chief's report for May 2023 for the month of April. Special meetings are coming up. We'll have a special meeting on the 17th and also the 22nd of this month. So May 17th and 22nd to continue our discussion on the levy bond issue that's in front of us. And those will be held at 4 p.m. unless changed by this commission at this point. We plan on having some meetings in June as well. I will hopefully be able to set those dates either at the 17th or 22nd meeting, and then hopefully have 2 or 3 meetings in June in order to hopefully have a decision made whether we will be going out for any type of measure this November. We have new members. So we have 5 new members. And actually we pulled 2 more. We pulled Brittany, so I think we have 6 and Kirk. So we'll have 6, we'll have 5 per shift. So that'll give us 20 weekend personnel that we end up having on shift. And out of that, we have 2 females that are coming on the agency that did exceptionally well. I believe I will be losing 1 in short order because she has a lot of talent. And she's she's in 2 or 3 processes now in the Lower Mainland. So I don't expect that we'll have her very long. I'm hoping maybe we'll have her until July, but that may be even a stretch. So I think she'll get picked up, and a number of the young gentlemen are also extremely good. This is probably one of our best classes that we've had in talent, and happy to pull them, but hopefully we have them for a few months before they're pulled into career departments in the Lower Mainland. Nothing to report on the apparatus for the month of April. Still have 38 members because those members didn't get added until May. So I'll report new numbers in May for our members roster. For right now, we still have 38 members, 29 Canadian, 8 Point Roberts in 1 county. We have 2 paramedics. I have 1 other paramedic that is interested in coming up here that I currently work with down south. So next month, hopefully we'll have 3 paramedics on staff, 15 EMTs, 4 advanced EMTs. Of that 15, 1 ambassador, and of the 38 members, we have 32 that are qualified firefighters. Volunteer hours, we're still waiting on emergency networking to come up with a reporting system that will be able to grab all of our hours. Again, prior to switching over, we were averaging anywhere from 2,300 to closer to 2,800 hours a month. If not, some months we are over 3,000 for our volunteer activity for this community. Volunteer payroll, if all we're getting paid is 14,514. I worked 178.5 hours in the month of April. Chief Shields was 100 hours even, total of 278.5 hours for the chief officers in April. We had 38 total calls. We had 8 EMS calls. We had 1 transport that this agency did to St. Joseph's Hospital. We had 6 no transports. We transferred 1 to a county medic unit. We had 13 EMS cares or community paramedic calls, and we had 6 public assists. We had fire classifications. We had 11. We had 5 permitted burns, 2 illegal burns. We had 3 false alarms. Going on down, we had 1 water issue, and that sums up the fire classification. So a total of 38 calls for the month of April. The month prior to that, we had over 40. We're currently at 148 calls for the year total. So that completes my chief's report for the month of May for April 2023. I'll take any questions.
Questions? No, so,
Okay,
moving right along. So, we need to discuss the capital facilities first, is that what they?
if we're at that point in the agenda, sure, I can bring that up.
Yeah, for the levy.
Yeah, so I think it's prudent that all of you received the capital facilities plan by email to review, but I'll review it for public purposes as well again and dive into it a little bit more. The capital facilities plan has been reviewed and updated, and I'll be posting that here. But I think it's prudent that if chosen by this commission, that it be approved, so it can become the new capital facilities plan, and then I can post that to the internet to have access for the public. Because what we're asking for is based off of that capital facilities plan and the additional costs that we're showing within that plan versus the 2018 plan. So I'll go ahead and share that if everybody's in agreement. Give me a second. Sorry. Okay, everybody should be able to see the capital facilities plan here. Can everybody see that online? Okay. So again, this was updated this year. Our previous plan was from 2018. So this new plan is proposed for 2023 through 2036 as well. The wording really hasn't changed much. We've just updated some of that just for the dates that are being affected at this point. RCWs could have been updated. I don't remember doing that with the county or reviewing that with the RCWs. So the executive summary, just overviews of why we're putting this plan into place, what the fire district is, and that this is a capital facilities improvement plan for the district to meet its emergency services response matrix for the future. So just a history of the fire district. Again, this can be found online as well. And we have approximately 1,211 residents per the new census. We're 5 square miles. Some things say 4.8, 4.9, but we just rounded that up to 5 square miles. Again, a lot of this has not changed in verbiage when it comes to the 2018 plan. So this is our main fire station. It goes over the square footage and the lands that it's also on. This can be found in the county. Our newest engine is engine 58. We purchased that. It's a mini pumper. Purchased that back in 2018, 19. 1994 is our second oldest engine in reserve. And that's engine 5803, engine 5802. And that'll have to be corrected, just so you know that this number right here will be engine 5803. In the correction, so I can correct that on the Word document and then resave it But just so you know that I'll be correcting that to engine 5803. Again, our oldest rig is a 1991, so that makes it 32 years old. At this point, it was made for this district, and I believe a bond issue and some of the bingo money was utilized to purchase that back in 1991 for the district. Our brush truck here, it's also a service vehicle during the winter. Our plow truck, Battalion 58, it's a 2001. Ambulances, our newest ambulance is a 2007, so it's 16 years old. It's 858. And then our oldest is a 1991, so 32 years old as well, 85802. Just to describe how old this ambulance is, safety purposes, it doesn't meet any type of safety standards for our current requirements through vehicle purchasing. And we do have a grant out for it. It's a $300,000 plus grant to replace that. I'm 50-50 on whether or not we're going to get that, probably 60-40 against. I'll go 60-40 that we won't receive that grant because it's quite an expenditure, but within the grant process, we said it was going to be worth another 30 years of an ambulance for us. And hopefully that they take that into consideration, but it not meeting any of the safety standards gives us quality point value. But again, I don't know how effective AFG is going to be on making that one of the grants that we get. The other grant I have out is for the radios, and it's radios, our portable and mobile radios. And it is over a $300,000 grant as well. So in total, I have $700,000 plus or minus a few of grants currently that are being reviewed by FEMA, the AFG program, Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program. And we hopefully will be hearing something in June or July. And I'm pretty confident on the radio grant. If we got both grants, then that would take $700,000 plus out of the capital facility needs, because both of those would be covered by grants. I'm hoping that at least one of them will be covered. Again, this is the utility and command vehicles. Everybody knows Scooby-Doo. Everybody kind of likes Scooby-Doo. It's a 1976 van. We bought it brand new. It still has the original interior in it. It's on its second set of tires. And I spent $5 grand on it recently at the Chevy dealership, as I stated last meeting. And the Chevy dealership had to bring in a special mechanic because none of the new mechanics knew how to work on it. So, and then Chief Shields' vehicle, we purchased this out of California, and that was purchased back in 2018-19, I believe, as well. And it was a used vehicle. Then we have our forest vehicle, and it would be utilized as a wildland vehicle too, or wildfire vehicle to get people out to certain areas into the woods quickly. So adopted levels of service, we are in the rural category here, and our current WSRB rating is a 5, which is shown on the next page. But that gives you some of the language for what Whatcom County has adopted as either urban or rural levels, and response time requirements for districts that land in either one of those definitions. We are not fully staffed. We do have times that we do not have people here at the fire hall, so we are considered an unstaffed station. And we're a combination organization, but majority volunteer. Current and projected levels of service. So the average response time we have now, including emergent and non-emergent calls, is approximately 7 minutes. That comes out of one fire station here located on Benson Road. When I started here in 2012, our WSRB rating was a 6. And through working with our volunteers and the commissioners and Chief Shields, we were able to find ways to reduce that down to a 5 on our last or two surveys ago, I guess. Our last survey, we maintained the 5, and it would be nice if we could get that down to a 4, which would help with insurance ratings within this community. I think it's prudent to remind the community that I think we actually meet the definition of a gated community because we are protected by the federal government, and everybody that comes into our community or through the border actually gets a background check as they come through the border. So that you might pass that on to your insurance companies as well, that potentially we are considered a gated community, and you could probably maybe get some savings there too. The goal would be able to get us to a 4 at some point, and I'll have to discuss that. Where's our biggest holes and how can we improve to where those point values are possible for us to decrease our WSRB rating to a 4. But I want to go to a strong 4. So I don't want to fluctuate back and forth between 4 and 5 every time we get reevaluated. If we go to a 4, I want to make sure it's a strong 4. So our community can have value and confidence within that rating. So the projection of the capital facilities costs, again, these are projections. And the final numbers obviously wouldn't be final until ratified. If such a measure was taken and passed in November, the actual numbers would have to be approved by the county. So, but these are projections, and we're going to do our best to get as close as possible to the projections. So we assume through this plan that the district's capital costs will increase at 4.5% each year. We're considering that the operational costs are going to be increasing 4% a year as well. So down to table 3. So this starts the big table. So from 2018 to 2036, we have accomplished some of the projects, and you can see those at the very top for the completed projects that we've done and the cost of those projects as well. If we go into the proposed, so the 2023 projects that we currently have, parking lot reseal and patching, that's $30,000. So that's this year. The second column is a 4.5% increase. So right now, since it's the current year, none of these are going to increase that 4.5% because we consider them money value this year. Now, every year past that, though, we're looking at a projection and a 4.5% increase to the value of that money. So in 2024, portable radios, unless we get that grant this year, so $360,000 this year will be $376,000 in 2024. So we're looking at a $16,000 increase between now and 2024 because of what we're projecting to be the increase in capital costs and also operational. So right now, these are all capital costs. When I publish this online, I hope the public will take a look at it. And any questions, if you'd like to get coffee, anything like that, I'd be happy to sit down with people. These are the best projections we've been able to make. We worked many hours with our financial manager, Patty Markell. So thank you very much, Patty, for making the time to help go over this capital facilities plan with Matt from the county. And then speaking with the commissioners, my assistant chief, trying to devise any other capital facilities that we can potentially see in the next 12 to 13 years. Obviously, things will come up and we'll have to deal with those and be dynamic as those things come up outside of this list. So again, we go through this, and the second column is what's being added up to get the total over the next 13 years. And the total for, if we were to do all of these capital facility needs, replace the engines, replace the ambulances, replace our staff vehicles, the brush truck, redo the roof, redo the parking lot. Those are just some things that I've named off of this capital list. Anything that's unanticipated, we have cost built into that in this process too, that if we don't have anything unanticipated, then that's cost savings. But we have a projection of 4.2 million of capital facility needs over the next 13 years. Again, some of these projects can be pushed, but the longer we push, the more expensive they become and the higher the risk we have in not having, especially if it's about apparatus, not having apparatus that can meet the needs of our personnel responding. If one of our pumps would go down, let's say out of our 1991 or 1994 engine, if we had a pump that didn't meet certification for 1500 GPM, and WSRB came out and we are unable to get that fixed prior to that certification, or them coming out to do their rating, then that would be a negative point value, and it would be very likely that we would bounce back up to a 6 in our community rating for WSRB. So we get our pumps every year. We have to get our vehicles maintained. Every vehicle in our fleet is maintained. And if we go in and they do the pump test on one of our big engines or even the Mini, and it doesn't meet that capacity, our capacities are 1,500 gallons per minute on every truck that we currently have. If it only puts out 1,350, then it is decertified at that point. And we would have to find a way to rebuild that pump. We'd have to come up with the finances to rebuild that pump on a 32 or a 29-year-old apparatus. Hopefully it wouldn't happen to our 2018 since it's pretty well new, but you're looking at anywhere from $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to rebuild a pump. And is it worth putting that money into a 1994 or 1991 apparatus? And at this point, because we do not have the reserves, I would have to say that would have to be done in order to get that pump rebuilt and recertified to meet capacity. So 4.2 million is what our projected capital facilities cost. That could go up or down depending on what grants we're able to acquire. Again, grants, we can't run emergency services off the hope that we'll be receiving a grant at some point. We would have to come up with, okay, we've tried the grant twice. Now we need to move ahead with financial purchasing from district reserves. But that's again 2 years. And the cost of that capital facilities is most likely going to be anywhere from 8 to 10% more expensive over that 2 years for materials, depending on what's being purchased. So all of that has to be considered. And again, we'll do our best with the finances that we have, but it's something that the public should know. So capital facility needs, you can see the property evaluation. Everybody got hit with property increase. Our district went from, I believe, 749,000 to 2023 to 749 million, sorry, to 935 million. So we almost had a $200 million increase to the valuation of Point Roberts, and there went everybody's property taxes and everything else to match that valuation. Now, as it was explained last meeting by our attorney, Brian Snur, and also Jim Nelson from Davison Company, which was the bond issuer out of Seattle, they explained that we become in financial difficulty because inflation outpaces how our budget is growing on a year-to-year basis. And we've reached that level, we've reached that ledge at this point, that through this plan, you'll see that we're going to be going deficit, even in our operational budget within a couple years, if we don't end up having a bond or a levy issue. And I've always stated this, and I think I'll state it before we get into that at other meetings, and I'll probably have to restate it in every meeting, but in order to get a bond, our current levy has to be able to support the improvements of that bond. And right now, any bond measure that we would potentially take, I don't believe our levy would be able to support the improvements of a bond. So we'll have to discuss that further once we get into those conversations on the 17th and 22nd. And then also in June. So everybody can see that there. We can go up to $1.50 per thousand. Right now we're at 69 cents, so 0.693 basically. Last month I put up a Excel spreadsheet that showed the cost related to a $500,000 home, $750,000 property, and $1 million property. What that would be. On the 17th and 22nd, I'll be bringing that back to the discussion and making sure and reviewing those numbers for accuracy as well. So last year, our levy was around 85 cents. So in 2022, but because our valuation went up, that decreases our levy. So our levy rate. That's just because of the valuation, and that's how it works. The more we go up, the less our levy becomes, and that's when the inflation can grab hold and override us on that. We're able to increase our budget for general public knowledge only 1% a year, and that is state set. I forget the gentleman who had that measure way back when. He tries to put in a lot of measures in the state. Can somebody help me out with his name, please? Does anybody? I forget. Anyway, he put that in many years ago. So taxing districts could only increase 1%. Now they can go out to their taxpayers for increases beyond that, but that has to be voter approved. So fire mitigation fees, so reserves, we can make up for our deficits through reserves. Right now, we have basically $1 million through a multitude of accounts. And we have about $1 million in reserve capacity currently. Fire mitigation fees, so that's one way that we can overcome through the SEPA mitigation fees as well. The county does not have an impact fee program, so that's the county does not have an impact fee program. That's an automatic impact fee program. So the way special districts can ask for more money for new buildings, for residential, commercial, those types of things, is through the SEPA or a concurrency. It's called a concurrency, and it's RCW 20.80.212. That's actually county code, sorry. County code of 20.80.212 is concurrency. And that allows us to put into certain fee structure for building a new home, starting a new development, those types of things. And I'll go over that coming up as well. So we can go out for grants as well, and then we can do a levy and or bond. So we've had this current levy in place since 2010. So we're at our 13-year mark with our current levy. And we're starting to see that issue with our lack of ability to increase beyond 1% a year. And 1% is really not 1% a year. It's like a 0.9 something. But it only gives us about, with our current budget, if we truly got 1%, around $6,700 a year is what we would increase. And that's basically outfitting one firefighter worth of gear at this point. And that buys one SCBA and a little bit of change to that. So projection of future revenues. So the district is projecting the operating expenses will increase by 4% a year. So that's everything that's within my operational budget, all the supplies we purchase, everything like that. So capital facility costs, I think we're being very conservative. I think we're going to end up being low on the 4.5% increase of what it costs to buy a new apparatus, to buy a new fire truck, to buy those capital types of things. I think we're going to be low on that. It rocketed with fire department manufacturers, fire trucks, to over 10% this year of additional cost to apparatus because of the inflation, the supply chain. And again, last meeting, I mentioned that if I wanted to build a new truck, a custom truck that would last us for 30 years, then I'm 2.5 years out on that truck. When I put in the, let's say we ordered a new truck tomorrow, it's like we wouldn't see it for over 2 years. Okay, so operational costs, paper, pens, pencils, all of those types of things, we're looking at 4%. We're projecting that our annual revenues will only go up by 1.7% a year. So you can see that we're already behind the 8 ball there with our projection. So the 2023, the revenue that we started out with was last year times the increase of 1.7%, which gives us a 711,888. Our operating expenses for 2023 was 648,000 and change. And it's projected into capital of 62,981. Within our operational plan, I'm only looking at saving maybe around $1,300 this year when it comes to if I spent every dime out of our operational plan to serve this community and to provide for the volunteers that provide that service, then we would really only have about $1,300 last year. If I'm correct, Patty, we ended up with about $15,000 going into reserve capacity. Is that correct?
Yes, I can double check the amount if you'd like.
Yeah, I think, if you would, if you can get that,
Yes,
this meeting, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
yes, carry over what we invested the beginning of this year.
Yeah, from last year's budget, yeah.
Okay, one moment.
Thanks. Let me know when you have that.
Okay,
So those are projections of what our revenue is going to be from 2023 to 2036. And you can see that in 2028, we go deficit. Our operational expenses are going to override our revenue coming in. And again, these are projections. These are the best that we can possibly do. The revenue has increased 1.7% each year. And then our operating expenses are at that 4% per year. That is projected. And again, I believe 4%, but our capital, I think the capital 4.5%. I'm afraid that that's low, but we're doing our best to project with the numbers that we have.
Chief, I have that amount.
Yeah, go ahead, Patty.
It was $11,478.84.
Okay. So that's what we took into investments from last year's budget.
Yes,
Okay, thank you so much, Patty.
you're welcome.
So by 2036, we're $750,000 in deficits when it comes to revenue and what our operational expenses are projected to be in 2036. So fire district cash flow projections. So again, beginning cash and reserves for 2023 was 989,000, right at $1 million. Our revenues, again, from the chart that you just saw, 711,000 and change. Operating expenses from the previous chart as well. And then if we were to do all the capital expenses that we have projected for 2023 of $120,000, ending cash at the end of 2023 would be 932,000. 2024, everybody can just follow that down. This is that 1.7%. Beginning cash reserves, sorry. This is that, so we've decreased it down. So the 932,000 there coming to this line. Our revenues have gone up by 1.7%. Our operating expenses went up by 4% to 674,000. Capital expenses for 2024, we have some big expenditures that we would like to do. $647,000 worth of capital improvements. We end up with cash ending reserves of 334,000. And that's if all those capital expenditures were done and not pushed back. And again, we can push those things back if so chosen by this commission. And everybody can just follow it on down through 2028 and then also through the end of this capital facilities plan of 2034. So by 2034, if we were projected to do, and we couldn't obviously because we're going negative balance, but it's important to show the public of our capital expenditure needs and necessities and where that's going to take us if we don't get some type of levy lift or a bond issue approved this year or in the coming year as well. So again, a bond issue has to be supported by the current levy. And as you can see between our revenue and our operating expenses, our revenue with our current bond needs to be improved. So at that end, we're looking at over $4 million within negative $4 million when it comes down to if we were to do everything that needed to be accomplished within this district over the next 13 years. Okay. Any questions on that so far? Okay. How do we make up for that? So obviously we can make adjustments to this plan and the expenditures. We can make adjustments to the sources of revenues or a combination of the above. So we can push those capital facility necessities out. So push purchasing a new ambulance out, push purchasing a new engine out, push the parking lot out, all of those things that are listed in the capital facilities as needing to be replaced or renewed, I think is a discussion the commission will have to have if we're not successful at getting a bond issue or a levy lid lift at this point.
You keep pushing out And you get a larger bill all the time because of the increase or the decrease in finances.
Mhm.
This makes no sense. We have to correct this.
Well, and I agree with that. Because the longer we push it out, the more expensive things become. The saying is that things are never cheaper as they are today, unless they go on sale. And the fire trucks and stuff aren't going to go on sale. The parking lot's not going to go on sale. The roofing material is not going to go on sale. All of those things are not going to go on sale. So I look forward to the conversations, starting, again on the 17th and 22nd. And hopefully we can come up with a positive solution, if necessary, and you guys approve it, to present to the public this coming up November. Again, it's a measure, and there's always a potential that we may not decide to do anything for this November. But that's going to have to be decided through the discussions that we have. So this is the call volume. Everybody can see that it fluctuates from year to year. Last year was our biggest year ever, 484 calls. I don't believe Chief Shields has any busier year than that in his time here, and he's been here 30 plus years with the district. So the mitigation fee background information, this goes along with the SEPA fees and stuff like that too. And just to explain, so the 4.2 million came from our capital facility costs. So that was discussed earlier on in this presentation, and it came 4.2 million. We are projecting that the district pay 93% of that 4.2 million necessity, and that equals 3.9 million. And then the amount paid by new development would be $300,000. Now, where does that new development money come from? So when you're looking at residential, we have $300,000 here taken from this number here. So the amount paid by new development is there. We consider that 80% of that's going to come from residential, 20% is going to come from industrial, commercial. So amount paid by new residential developments, if we had 183 units built in this community and they all met the SEPA code, and we were able to present this fee to those developers, each residential unit would be worth $1,314. So that's $1,314 times 183, which is rounded up to that 240,431. Again, that's a projection. So 240,000 of that $300,000 needed would come out of residential, and then the mitigation fee for square footage to be added in commercial or industrial developments here. The county is projecting 55,000 square feet in the next 13 years to be built here in Point Roberts. That makes up the additional funds that we need out of the $240,000 to reach this 300. It makes up that $60,000. That's the 20%. That fee is $1.09 per square foot. So $1.09 times the 55,000 gives us that roughly $60,000 square foot. So that equals the $300,000 that we would be needing to be made up if the district was able to pay the however many million dollars, or the 4 million up here, sorry, the 4.2 million, the 93% of that, which would be the 3.9. Okay, but we're going to need help with this. The 4.2 million we have no capacity in our current levy to meet this necessity here. So this sums it up here, down here. So realistically, we're trying to meet that $300,000 mark, and we have 183 projected new dwellings, residential dwellings, 55,000 square feet of industrial or commercial space. Those are times as above. The $1,300 for residential, or the $1.09 per square foot, gives us these equations here, equaling that makeup of $300,000. And the yearly revenue per year of that over the next 13, and the 80-20 split equaling the 100%. So contingency plan for funding and stuff like that. Request the voters of the district to approve a bond and or levy for specific capital facilities. Review development mitigation fees associated with voluntary agreements under the RCW, or increase the emphasis on the SEPA mitigation. The SEPA fee is that $1,300 up here. And that goes along with the other districts that have SEPA fees in place, this $1,300. That's in line with how much they're charging. Actually, I believe a little bit more. Seek additional grant sources of funding and or modify the planned capital facilities. So obviously, the list that I presented in the years that those are projected to be completed, that obviously is going to need to be dynamic, depending on what we're able to accomplish with the voter approval, if that's the route we decide to go. That is the capital facilities plan. And at this point, I would ask for any questions from the commission or staff. And I'd be happy to do my best to answer those questions. And if there's no questions, then I would ask for approval of this plan by the commission so it can be finalized and published for the public's readability.
Very clear. Well done.
I mean, Patty, she did a lot of work on this. So I need to give that acknowledgement that without Patty and her mathematics and her accounting and stuff like that, a lot of this would not have worked out as well as it did in providing the numbers that she needed to provide to the county. So again, I want to thank Patty for all of her assistance and the extra time that she spent meeting with me and meeting with the county. We still have quite a few meetings to go. But if you approve this, then that'll be the finalization with that one change to engine 5803 that I need to update for that apparatus. I will review it finally with Matt Abbott and Patty. If additional, if anything major, it would have to come back to the commission. But if we have typos, anything like that, we can go ahead and prove it. And if you so choose to approve this plan, then I'll go ahead and publish it.
Well, we need to have a motion on that.
Okay, so approved by the commission. Thank you so much for your approval of that and your understanding. Go ahead, Linda.
I could not hear who made the motion and who seconded.
Pat motioned it.
Pat motioned it, Katz seconded and approved.
Thank you all.
Yeah. So I will publish that to the website as soon as possible. Obviously, that'll be available for anybody to read at their leisure. And again, I ask the public to reach out to me with any questions that they may have on the numbers, on the mitigation fees, those types of things. And I'll do my best to answer those questions. I think it's probably also prudent in our coming up meetings to potentially invite back our general counsel, Brian Snur, to be available if necessary for people to have questions regarding RCWs or anything like that, WAC. And then if a bond is so chosen, then to bring back. The bond is obviously going to go up again because the Fed increased the rate again by 0.25%. So our bond, from what was projected in Jim's initial presentation last month, the bonds are going to change and go up again. And so I look forward to having more discussion coming up in the special meetings, and those will be published out to the public as well. But that's what I have for you today.
Before we leave this, can we ask anyone online if they have any questions? This is your chance. Okay. All right, so we've taken care of this.
So the capital facilities plan is done with those minor modifications. And then I'll publish that hopefully within the next few days. I'll be able to get that online. And by the 17th, it'll have been published and the public could have read it by that point. I'll let the Taxpayers Association know that it's published. And I'll let the paper know that it's published as well, so people can start reading it.
Do other fire departments have this organized plan?
I don't know if District 7, Patty, does District 7 have a capital facilities plan published with the county?
I believe so, yes. However, it was completed quite some time ago. I don't have the exact years from when to when that it's valid, but yes, we do.
I want to say North Whatcom, District 14, has this filed with the county as well. This review will not be filed with the county at this time because the county is going to be updating themselves in 2024. So we may end up having to do this again in 2024. But right now, Matt approved going forwards with this, but our current plan, the 2018 plan, is on file with the county.
Okay. Questions, comments, stuff?
Yeah, I don't believe fire trucks are going to go on sale. So, but again, coming up with the conversations that we'll have, I look forward to those and answering any questions and having good conversations and open conversations about the services we provide and what we would, we would obviously like to maintain the levels we currently provide, and add additional benefits to this community in the future too. So, but those will come up in the next conversations.
New business, any new business that we need to bring up? Nothing?
I don't think so. We have some great classes coming up. In July, we have a Mayday course coming up. I've a Mayday course, firefighter trapped, firefighter down. And that's going to have 40 people from all over this region. A little disappointed in our Chiefs Association. I don't have any chiefs from this county coming up for that yet. And I have to take that back. And I don't have 5 Bugle Chiefs coming up. I do have an assistant chief coming up from Linden, Christy Watson. She's the new assistant chief, so she'll be participating in that. But I'll have people coming up from Olympia, from the islands, Vancouver Island, and all over the Lower Mainland and beyond Whatcom County. So I look forward to that in July. In June, we're going to have our 2 open burns, and that's being held at Maple Ridge, which is the Justice Institute. I'll be going out there the 24th of this month to take a look at the facility. But the fire facility down at Station 12 at Britton Loop in Bellingham is out of commission indefinitely. So we can't go down there and burn anymore. So I had to find a alternate, and the Justice Institute is willing to host us for that, but the cost is going to be about $7,000 in order to do that. But each and every one of our firefighters gets 1 burn, at least 4 hours of seeing flame and working hose and stuff like that every year. Yeah, and I think that's invaluable, and so the cost is something that the extension of that is very important. So that'll be on June 10th and 11th. I will invite the county. So if we do have organizations that want to send up people, more people the better, moving hose around, because people can get really tired really quick, and more people the better, and it'll give them some experience as well.
And you mentioned a class that you were having in May.
Yes, I'm going to Phoenix, and I'm going to a big box seminar, which is working on how to battle fires and how to approach fires in buildings like the marketplace. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a very quick trip. I fly in, have 2 days of class, sitting in for 8 hours each day, and then I fly back home. So no pool, no sun, no nothing. It'll be an in and out for me down to Phoenix. It'll be an in and out with me in Phoenix, and hopefully I can bring back some great education through that course.
So do we have any questions from you too? No? Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, we will be adjourning at 4:57.